How badly are you wearing yourself down trying to control what was never yours to control? You cling, you plan, you worry, and then you act surprised when life steamrolls over you like it does not care about your schedule. That is when a lot of people confuse faith with a cheap painkiller, something to repeat when everything goes wrong. But real faith is not decoration, it is a tool. It is the hand you finally let go of when you realize pride will not save you, and self-control without direction will leave you empty too. Stay with me. Gabriel here. Welcome to the Stoic Garden. Today we are going to walk through 9 practical lessons where Stoicism and Christianity meet to teach you to let go of what you cannot control, do your part without excuses, and recover peace without becoming soft. And by the end you will have a clear way to move through life calmly with discipline and steady faith, the kind that does not break when the world squeezes hard. Let us begin. 1. Hand over to God what you cannot control and recover immediate peace. That sounds simple until you try it, because you are not suffering because of what is happening. You are suffering because you need what is happening to obey you. You argue with reality as if reality were your partner, and you were the one who was right. And the worst part is you get exhausted, bitter, and on top of that you convince yourself this is what being responsible looks like, when in reality you are just a slave to your own obsession. When faith is real, it is not about closing your eyes and crossing your fingers. It is about putting things in their proper place. It is looking at what slipped through your hands and saying, I am not the one holding this up. Because there are burdens that do not belong to you, and still you carry them as if you were the pillar of the universe. The irony is brutal. You think you are strong because you endure it, but what you are really doing is breaking apart in silence so you do not have to feel vulnerable. Some things are within your field and some things are not. Your intention, your conduct, your discipline, your word, your ability to apologize, your way of responding, that is yours. But the outcome, people's moods, the past, the future, other people's choices, the twists of the world, none of that belongs to you. And here is the trap. You want peace, but you refuse to let go of what you never had the power to control. When you truly hand it over to God, you do not become passive. You become clear-headed. You stop wasting energy imagining scenarios, rehearsing arguments, anticipating disasters. You save yourself from that mental theater that steals your sleep. You start talking to yourself differently, more simply, more soberly, more humanly. This does not depend on me. I am going to do my part. The rest I leave where it belongs. And halfway through the day, when the urge comes back to squeeze control as if squeezing harder could change anything, ask yourself honestly, who appointed you the person in charge of making sure everything turns out perfectly? When did you decide that if something goes off script, it means you failed as a person? Because that belief is not responsibility, it is pride dressed up as worry. Epictetus, who was a slave before becoming a teacher, said it without poetry, the way life-saving things are said. It is not events that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them. And this is where it connects with faith as a tool. You cannot control the storm, but you can control whether you lose your mind fighting the sky. God is not asking you to manage the weather. He is asking you to walk upright in whatever weather you are given. The practice is concrete. Every time anxiety grabs you, name it and separate yourself from it. This is not in my hands. Breathe. Then ask the only useful question, what can I do today with dignity? And you do that. One clear message, one honest action, one small step. And when you have done your part, you let go of the rest without drama, without ceremony, like someone setting down a backpack they were never meant to carry. Because look at the most common example. You are waiting for a reply, an opportunity, approval. You burn yourself up checking your phone, interpreting silence, inventing meanings. That is not love or prudence or maturity. It is emotional dependence on the outcome. You can prepare, you can show up, you can speak truthfully, you can improve, but you cannot force anyone to choose you or force life to reward you when you think your turn has come. And when you make this shift, peace shows up fast. It is almost irritating how simple it was. Not because everything gets fixed, but because you finally stop fighting the inevitable. You become steady without being tense. And then yes, faith feels like what it really is, the hand you hold to keep walking, not the excuse to stay lying on the ground. 2. Accept God's will without becoming resigned, and do your part with discipline. This is where a lot of people get confused because they think acceptance means giving up. It does not. Acceptance means stopping the tantrum, not stopping the walk. It means understanding there is an order bigger than your whims, and still getting up early, following through, keeping your word, and doing what is right even when you do not feel like it. In Christianity, there is a phrase people repeat that scares some because they think it makes them weak. Thy will be done. The problem is not the phrase. The problem is how you use it. If you say it to justify laziness, you are playing with fire. But if you say it to stop fighting what has already happened and focus on what is yours to do now, then it turns you into someone dangerous, someone who does not break. Acceptance is not a sedative. It is clarity. You accept that it is raining today, but that does not mean you walk outside naked, throw yourself on the ground and start crying. You grab an umbrella and keep going. Life works the same way. There are losses, rejections, doors that close, delays that drive you mad. Accepting God's will means recognizing the fact without turning it into a sentence about your worth. Discipline enters right there, in the space between what happened and what you do next, because what defines you is not what came your way, but how you respond. If things did not work out today, do you turn bitter and cynical? Or do you get yourself in order, adjust and keep going? Faith does not replace your character. Faith demands it. It calls you to rise to the occasion, not to hide. And here comes the uncomfortable question you should hear in silence. If you say you trust God, why do you treat yourself like someone with no duties? Why do you negotiate with yourself every time it is time to do the right thing? It is like asking for guidance and then deliberately walking into a swamp and acting offended when you sink. That is not bad luck. It is a lack of inner government. Accepting God's will also means accepting that sometimes the plan was not yours. And that hurts because the ego gets attached to its script. But there are endings that saved you from a mediocre life, rejections that pushed you to grow, weights that taught you real patience. Discipline is your way of honoring that process without turning it into useless suffering. Practical faith shows up in the everyday. Pray, yes, but then get up and do what you know you need to do. Work with excellence even when no one applauds. Take care of your body even when you are tired. Speak truthfully, even if your voice shakes. God's will is not permission to live halfway. It is a call to live fully. When you get used to this, something settles inside you. You stop asking for signs for everything. You do not need life to give you guarantees in order to act well. You become the guarantee of your own conduct, and when the result comes, you receive it with gratitude. And when it does not come, you do not fall apart, because your peace was never mortgaged to it. This is what a man or woman with faith and strength looks like. They accept without resentment, work without excuses, and sleep with a clear conscience. Not because they control the world, but because they finally control the only thing that was ever really theirs to control. 3. Pray with intention and use silence to bring order to your mind and heart. Because if you pray like someone tossing a coin into a well and hoping the universe grants the wish, you're going to end up frustrated. And rightly so. Prayer is not for twisting God's arm. It is for straightening yourself out. It is for your mind to stop running around like a loose dog, and for your heart to stop reacting as if every emotion were an order. People say they have no peace, but they keep the noise on all day. Phone, music, videos, empty conversations, notifications, everyone's opinions packed into your mind as if they were paying rent. And then night comes and of course you feel like you cannot breathe inside. It is no mystery. You filled yourself with stimulation and expected inner silence to show up like an automatic gift. Praying with intention means getting to the essential. It is not about saying a lot. It is about speaking cleanly. It is sitting before God without emotional makeup, saying what is happening to you, what you fear, what you are avoiding, what you need to let go of, and then being quiet. Yes, quiet, because some people pray like they are sending a very long voice note and then leave without listening. Prayer is also staying there, without hurry, so the mud can settle. Silence is not emptiness. It is order. It is the place where you realize what is really moving you. Sometimes it is not the problem. It is you trying to control everything. Sometimes it is not the wound. It is your pride defending a version of yourself that no longer exists. And there, in that silence, you start seeing what you used to cover up with noise. Halfway into that practice, a question comes up that changes your posture. Do you really want peace, or do you just want the world to rearrange itself so you do not have to change a thing? because some prayers are sincere and others are negotiation in disguise. God, take this anxiety away from me, but let me keep my habits. God, give me clarity, but do not confront me. It sounds absurd when you say it out loud, which is why almost no one says it out loud. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, wrote for himself in the middle of power and war something that sounds like a prayer without saying God. He said that at any moment you can retreat within yourself, because nowhere does a person find a quieter or more peaceful refuge than in their own soul. And that connects perfectly with this lesson. Silence is that retreat. Not to run away from life, but to return to it with your mind aligned and your heart in its place. When you pray with intention, you also start to distinguish things. Some thoughts are yours, and some are just emotional pollution. Some guilt is real, and some guilt is invented to punish yourself. Some sadness needs grieving, and some sadness just needs rest and boundaries. And if you do not practice silence, everything gets mixed together, and you react like a blind person in a room full of furniture. The practice is simple but not comfortable. You sit down, you breathe, you say 3 things honestly: what weighs on you today, what you're grateful for today, and what you are going to do well today even if it costs you. Then you stay still, not looking for strange feelings, not waiting for fireworks, still like someone letting the water calm down. And when your mind wanders, you come back without a fight. Like in the gym, the muscle is built by coming back again and again. Over time, something changes. You no longer need to respond to everything immediately. Impulse no longer takes hold of you as if it owned your body. You start listening before speaking, thinking before acting, feeling without letting yourself be dragged away. That is prayer that brings order. Not the kind that makes you look more religious on the outside, but the kind that makes you more self-possessed on the inside. And when life tightens the screws, you will notice the difference. The person who does not practice silence breaks and scatters. The person who does practice it gathers themselves, centers themselves, and acts. And in a hysterical world, that is an enormous spiritual and mental advantage. 4. Practice faith as self-mastery and cut off the habits that weaken you from within. Let us make one thing clear here, because a lot of people love faith as long as it stays a pretty emotion. But when faith asks you to give up an easy pleasure, an excuse, a vice that numbs you, then suddenly they start saying, God understands. Yes, he understands, but he is not foolish, and you should not be either. Self-mastery is not living bitterly. It is not being ruled by your impulses. It is not selling your peace for 5 minutes of anesthesia, because that is exactly what certain habits do. They promise relief and charge you interest. They leave you emptier, more anxious, more dependent. And then you wonder why it is so hard to feel God's presence, why it is so hard to focus, why it is so hard to stay consistent. Well, if your life is one big dopamine switch, it is no wonder your soul is exhausted. Stoicism spoke of self-control as the foundation of character. Christianity calls it temperance and places it among the fruits of the Spirit. 2 different paths pointing to the same truth. You cannot say you walk with God while surrendering yourself to everything that makes you weak. You cannot ask for strength while feeding whatever drains it from you. And I am not just talking about sins in big dramatic words. I'm talking about everyday things: complaining as a habit, your phone as a refuge, gossip as entertainment, food as comfort, pornography as an escape, alcohol as an off switch, relationships as a crutch. Even the mental laziness of not reading, not learning, not improving, all of that gradually creates a more fragile version of you. And then, when a real crisis comes, you do not have the internal structure to hold up. In the middle of this section, let me throw you a question that is not meant to shame you, but to wake you up. What habit do you defend with everything you have, even though you already know it is dimming your light? Because when something is destroying you, and you keep protecting it, it is no longer just a little indulgence. It is a chain. And yes, I know it is scary to let it go, because at first you feel the emptiness. But that emptiness is not death. It is space. Space for you to choose again. Faith as self-mastery is lived out in the small decisions nobody applauds. Cutting off what scatters you, sleeping when it is time, eating with respect, training even when you do not feel like it, saying no even if people get offended, stopping the chase for approval as if it were oxygen. And when you fail, because you will fail, you come back without drama. You are honest with yourself, you correct yourself, and you keep going. You do not throw yourself on the floor and act as if your fall were your identity. Here comes the sarcasm that makes some people uncomfortable, but it is useful. Some people want God to fix their life while they keep trashing the house. They ask for peace, but feed chaos. They ask for clarity, but live with an intoxicated mind. They ask for self-worth, but treat themselves like garbage every night. And then they are shocked when they feel far from everything sacred. That is not mystical punishment. It is consequence. Self-mastery is also courage. Because breaking a habit is not just stopping the behavior. It is tolerating discomfort without running from it. It is feeling anxiety without sprinting toward distraction. It is feeling sadness without looking for anesthesia. It is feeling loneliness without grabbing onto just anyone. And that is where faith becomes muscle. When you hold discomfort with dignity, something inside you gets stronger. You start trusting that you do not need to destroy yourself just to survive a hard day. And no, this is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming whole, about not living as a walking contradiction, about what you say you believe showing up in what you do when no one is watching. Because peace does not come from repeating pretty words. It comes when your behavior stops betraying you. Cut off what weakens you, not with hatred but with respect for yourself. With one simple decision, repeated again and again, and little by little you will feel your faith stop being theory and become a pillar that holds you up when the world shakes. 5. Hold on to hope without fooling yourself and walk one day at a time. Because there are two kinds of hope, the kind that lifts you up and the kind that puts you to sleep. The first gives you direction and makes you steady. The second sells you fantasies so you can endure a life you are not actually fixing. And you already know which one you have been using, so do not play dumb. Faith is not imagining that everything will turn out exactly the way you want. Faith is trusting God while you do what is right even when you have no guarantees. And yes, that stings, because your mind wants contract signs, a 100% guarantee. But real life does not work that way. You walk with a lamp that lights today's step, not the whole map. Self-deception is easy to spot when you listen to yourself. I'll change when I have more time. I'll be disciplined when I feel motivated. I'll be at peace when this one thing gets fixed. And that is how you spend months, years, waiting for a perfect scenario that never comes. Meanwhile, your life stays on pause. And the saddest part is that you call it hope, when really it is just postponing your responsibility. This is where it helps to cut the drama and get back to what is simple. Today, just today. Not the whole month, not the 5-year plan, not the conversation that has not even happened yet. Today. What can you do with dignity today? What small decision moves you closer to the person you say you want to be? Because if you cannot handle the day, why are you obsessed with the future as if you are going to master it? Seneca, a man who knew pressure and politics firsthand, left behind a line that hits hard. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. And look how brutally true that is. Your anxiety is almost always a movie. Your exhaustion often comes from living through 10 tragedies in advance. Healthy hope means stepping out of that movie and coming back to the ground, here, now. And Christianity says it in a way people repeat without fully understanding it: daily bread. Not next year's bread, today's. That is not mediocrity, that is wisdom. Because when you commit to the day, you build consistency. And consistency over time works miracles that desperation never will. Walking one day at a time does not make you complacent. It makes you effective. Because you stop negotiating with your emotions. You do your part, take the step, put in order what you can, and trust God with the rest. And when you fall, you do not become a poet of failure. You get back up and keep going. With humility, with steadiness, with your hope placed where it belongs, not in your fantasy, but in God and in your decision to obey what is right. Hope without self-deception feels sober, not euphoric. It feels like a calm that does not depend on everything going well, but on the fact that you are walking well, and that is the kind of hope that does not betray you when the world shifts. 6. Forgive wisely and let go of resentment so you can stop living in chains. Because resentment has a deceptive look to it. It feels like strength, like justice, like, I'm not going to let that slide. But deep down, it is a rope around your neck. The other person keeps living their life, and you keep replaying the scene over and over, as if reliving the pain were somehow going to give you the ending you wanted. Forgiveness is not saying it was okay. It is not erasing consequences. It is not inviting back to your table the person who spat on your plate. Forgiveness is letting go of the poison so it stops running through you. It is saying, "This happened," without continuing to live there. Because when you do not forgive, you are not punishing the other person, you are punishing yourself. You become the guard of a prison where you are the one behind bars. And this is where wisdom comes in. Forgiving wisely means forgiving and learning, forgiving and setting boundaries, forgiving and choosing distance when needed. Some people confuse forgiveness with putting themselves back in harm's way, as if God were asking you to be naive. He is not. God asks for a clean heart, not a switched-off mind. There is a huge difference between having peace and playing the fool. Resentment seeps into everything, into how you speak, how you look at people, how you interpret others. It makes you reactive. It makes you suspicious. It makes you hard on people who never did anything to you. And the most ironic part is that you think you are protecting yourself, when really you are carrying the guilty person around inside your chest. It is like carrying a stone just to prove you got hit with one. Yes, you got hit. Now what? Are you going to keep walking around with the stone until it breaks your back? Forgiveness is also a way of getting your dignity back, because when you let go, you stop being a hostage. You stop needing the other person to apologize perfectly, to understand, to repent, to pay in the exact way you imagine. That does not mean justice disappears. It means your peace no longer depends on the world giving you some cinematic ending. When you let go of resentment, you breathe differently, you sleep differently, you make decisions without that inner trembling, and you start to notice something. Your energy comes back to you. You are no longer handing it over to the memory, no longer handing it over to "I should have said," no longer handing it over to "I hope this happens to them." It comes back to you, and with that energy, you rebuild. Forgive wisely. Clean your heart, sharpen your judgment, let go of resentment, hold the boundary, and you will see how one part of you, the part that was chained to an old wound, finally becomes still. Not because you forgot, but because you chose to be free. 7. Serve without chasing applause and strengthen your character through humility, because helping is one thing, and needing to be seen helping is another. Some people do not serve, they negotiate. They give something, but they charge for it with attention. They show up, but with their hand already out, waiting for recognition. And when the applause does not come, their mood drops, their kindness disappears, their interest vanishes. So it was never service. It was hunger for validation dressed in nice clothes. Real faith takes you off the pedestal. It reminds you that you are not the center of the universe, and what a relief that is when you accept it. Serving does not make you smaller, it makes you freer. Because you are no longer doing good to buy love, you do it because it is right. And that is where humility shows up, not as walking around with your head down like someone defeated, but as moving through life without needing the world to confirm every step you take. There is a brutal difference between the person who serves out of character and the person who serves out of anxiety. The first one helps and moves on with their life. The second one helps and then waits around to be idolized. And when nobody applauds, they start sending emotional invoices. They grow resentful, cold, and say, "I'm never helping anyone again." Convenient, right? As if people had signed a contract promising eternal gratitude. Halfway through this lesson, it is time to look at yourself without the mask. How many times have you done the right thing, expecting it to guarantee you love, respect, or reward? How many times did it hurt you more not to be recognized than the effort itself ever did? Because that is where you see who is really in charge inside you. If your peace depends on applause, then your character is up for rent. Christianity is very clear on this. Serve in secret. Not to play saint, but to train your intentions. And Stoicism pushes the same truth from another angle. Act with virtue even when no one is watching, even when no one celebrates it, even when people misunderstand you. Because if your behavior only exists when there is an audience, then it is not virtue. It is performance. Serving without chasing applause does not mean letting people walk all over you. Do not confuse humility with allowing abuse. You can serve and still set boundaries. You can help and still say, "That's enough." Humility is not putting up with disrespect. It is not needing to prove your superiority in order to feel valuable. And when you start living this way, something straightens out inside you. You become more solid, more steady. You do not collapse when no one recognizes you because your identity is not hanging on a thank you. You do what is yours to do, calmly, and keep moving. And that way of living gives you a quiet kind of strength that people notice. Not the strength of an inflated ego, but the strength of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. 8. Embrace adversity as training and trust the purpose of the process. Because if you interpret every problem as a sign that God has abandoned you, you are going to live in chronic fear. And if you interpret every pain as personal injustice, you are going to live bitter. Adversity is not always punishment. Very often it is formation. And yes, it is uncomfortable because nobody likes that kind of school. But that is the school that builds real character. This is where faith and Stoicism shake hands in a brutally practical way. The Stoic does not ask, "Why me?" The Stoic asks, "What do I do with this?" And the Christian, when awake, does not stay stuck in endless complaining. They look for meaning, for a response, for obedience even in the middle of the process. Not to act tough, but so the pain does not go to waste by being turned into theater. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, summed up the heart of the philosophy with a simple idea: live in accordance with nature. It does not sound religious, but it is deep. Nature includes what is pleasant and what is hard. It includes calm and storm. So when a hard season comes, it does not mean the world broke. It means the world is being the world. The real question is whether you are going to become wiser and steadier through it, or keep being the same person as always, just with more complaints. And let me say it plainly. Some people use adversity to refine themselves, and others use it to justify themselves. Some come out more human. Others come out more cruel. Some learn boundaries, patience, self-mastery. Others just come up with new excuses. And the ironic part is that both think life did something to them. No, life showed you what was already inside. In the middle of the process, it helps to ask yourself this question without rushing, without victimhood. Is this destroying me or revealing me? Because sometimes what hurts is not the blow itself, but realizing how much you depended on fragile things. Sometimes what breaks you is not the loss, but discovering your identity was tied to it. And there, when you see it, faith becomes a surgical tool. It cuts away what is extra so what is missing can finally grow. Trusting the purpose does not mean romanticizing pain. It means not getting lost inside it. It means continuing to do your part even when you do not understand the whole map. It means staying clean inside when it would be easy to turn cynical. It means continuing to pray even when you feel nothing. It means continuing to be honest even when the world rewards the dishonest. That is the kind of trust that matures. Embracing adversity as training means something very concrete. Do not waste it. Ask yourself what virtue it is demanding from you. Patience, courage, sobriety, humility, discipline. Then live it out, even when it burns. Because the process does not always feel like purpose. Sometimes it feels like exhaustion, like silence, like delay, like closed doors. But if you keep walking with dignity, that season will leave you with a steadiness money cannot buy. And when you come out of it, because you do come out of it, you will understand why it was necessary. Not because you become a fan of suffering, but because you will notice that now you react differently. Less drama, more calm, less dependence, more steadiness. And then truly you take God's hand and walk without trembling, even when the road tightens. 9. Live with gratitude and become a testimony, steady, calm, and free. Gratitude is not a smile taped onto your face. It is a posture. It is deciding that you are not going to let the world turn you into a professional complainer, one of those people who wake up already irritated just because morning came. And yes, I know it sounds simple, but almost nobody holds on to it when life tightens, because it is easier to say, "just my luck," than to humbly look at what you still have and what you still can do. Some people confuse gratitude with denying what is hard, but no, that is not the point. It is not pretending everything is fine. It is refusing to live as if God owed you a life without obstacles. Mature gratitude recognizes the pain, but does not hand it the wheel. It lets you say, "This is heavy," without becoming a heavy person. It lets you cry without losing your dignity. It lets you keep walking without poisoning yourself with bitterness. And here comes the uncomfortable part. You can talk about faith all day, repeat phrases, say that you trust. But your real message is in how you treat people when you are tired, how you react when someone contradicts you, how you behave when nobody is watching. That is your testimony. The rest is just noise. Because the world does not need more speeches. It needs to see someone who does not fall apart internally at the first sign of pressure. In the middle of the day, when the habit of complaining comes back automatically, ask yourself this without drama. Does what I am saying make me freer or more enslaved? Because some complaints are honesty and some complaints are addiction. And if you no longer know how to live without complaining, it is not that you have too many problems. It is that you have trained your mind to look for garbage even when there is bread on the table. Gratitude is also self-mastery. It is not turning every discomfort into a tragedy. It is valuing what is small without needing to lose it first in order to realize it mattered. The air in your lungs, a plate of food, a call that came through, a door that opened, even a door that closed and spared you from the wrong life. And yes, your ego hates that, because the ego wants big signs, big stages, big proof of its own importance. Gratitude brings you back to reality, and reality is where character gets built. Becoming a testimony means your life starts speaking for you. It means your calm is not weakness, but strength with restraint. It means your discipline is not rigidity, but love for what is right. It means your faith is not an escape, but a pillar. And no, it does not mean you are perfect. It means you are consistent, that when you fail, you correct yourself, that when you are wrong, you apologize, that when you are wounded, you do not turn into an executioner. Because what convinces people most is not the word, it is the scent. People can sense when someone is at war with themselves, and they can also sense when someone has real peace. That peace is not born from everything going well. It is born from learning to let go of what you cannot control, doing your part, forgiving, serving, enduring the process without turning dark inside. That is the testimony. So practice gratitude like someone sharpening a tool, not only when it suits you, but especially when it is hardest. And you will see yourself becoming someone different, less reactive, less anxious, less dependent on applause, more steady, more sober, more free. And when the world looks at you, it will not see a character. It will see someone whole, walking with God without losing themselves. If you made it this far, then you already see it clearly. Real faith does not infantilize you. It puts you in order. It teaches you to let go of what you cannot control without giving up, to accept life without becoming passive, to discipline yourself without becoming hard, and to walk with a peace that does not depend on everything turning out perfectly, but on you being in the right place inside yourself. Now it is your turn to bring this into your life, not just your head. Today, hand over one burden that is not yours to carry. Do your part with discipline even if you do not feel like it. Keep silence long enough to hear yourself, and listen to God without so much noise. Cut off one habit that is weakening you, let go of one resentment that is chaining you down, and practice gratitude like someone who respects themselves, not for morality, for survival. Because living at the mercy of your impulses and fears has already cost you too much. If this video set you on the right path, subscribe to the Stoic Garden so you can keep training this kind of steady calm, and I want to hear from you in the comments. Write the phrase, "I am a Stoic Christian," so I know you are willing to live with character, not excuses. And if you feel like it, tell me what country you are listening from too, because this is built as a community, step by step, together. Gabriel here. This is the Stoic Garden. On your screen, you are about to see 2 recommended videos to go deeper into this process and keep strengthening your mind and spirit. Pick one and keep going, because peace is not something you find, it is something you train. And you already know what to do. Walk straight with faith and do not sell yourself cheap.